Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast session. I'm Larry Sashin, and today we have a great group to discuss food service and community, a shared table. But before we go into the show, let's thank the guy who's paying the bill, Ed Flanagan and the Acre Group. Ed's been with us for over 2 years, and we got to know him, and we see the work he does. Listen, if you're buying over $100,000 in any one of the verticals they work with, you're wondering, am I really getting what I paid for? Call Ed Flanagan and the Acre Group. Their people will sift through your invoices, through your contract, and make sure you got what you paid for. And if you're paying too much, they'll find somebody for you to either get a new contract or whittle down the contract you already have. So back to our show. Food service, community, a shared table. Every religion on earth talks about giving to others, giving, and the restaurant community is no different. We are made up of people. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and the cashier, there's the little charity boxes, the tzedakah boxes? How many times do you see in a Little League, it said sponsored by so-and-so? We all do these things, and some people do it in a big way and some people do it in a small way. Today, we're going to go over some of those ways that this can be done. Dan, why don't you start? Tell us about your group.
Good morning, Larry. Thanks for having me. Morning, Fred. My name is Dan Meiser. I'm the founder and CEO of the 85th Day Food Community. We're a Mystic, Connecticut-based restaurant group and hospitality group. We have 4 restaurants in Mystic, as well as a farm, Stone Acres Farm. We talk about community. It's in our name. In terms of saying we're the 85th Day Food Community as opposed to the 85th Day Restaurant Group, the reason we do that is because we believe so strongly in the community that we're in. We're in a small town, but we have a big impact. We work with a lot of different organizations, both at the state level and the local community level. I'm excited to talk about the different things that we're doing here in Mystic. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Julie, say hello.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Julie Kinner, Vice President of Operations for Table to Table. We are a nonprofit food rescue organization located, it's my dog Bailey behind, of course, perfect timing. We are a nonprofit food rescue organization located in northern New Jersey. We service 5 counties, Bergen, Hudson, Essex, Passaic, and Morris County. We have 2 programs, one working with refrigerated trucks, picking up food that would be wasted and then delivering it directly to the larger programs feeding the hungry. And then we do have an app called Table to Table I Rescue, where we're using volunteers to do the same thing that our trucks are doing, but on a smaller basis. This year, we will rescue about 25 million meals.
Thank you. And Liz.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Larry and Fred. And what an honor to be here with both you, Dan and Julie. And I'm taking notes because I'm learning already from both of you. Great performances, 40 plus years of catering to New York, really elite community and business, nonprofit, social. And just to jump into the theme of what we're talking about, if all we did was feed the privileged, it would have been enough a long time ago. And New York is an incredibly diverse town. We have found multiple ways to really reach out to the other 99% of our fellow New Yorkers and try to make an impact in little ways, big ways, support people like you, Julie, do other things, programs that we initiate, support the nonprofit community, because it really is an interesting time in terms of what our role is in the hospitality business.
Great, thank you. And say hello, Fred.
Good morning, Fred Klashman, editor and publisher of Total Food Service. What a great panel. Looking forward to a great session.
All right. And once again, I'm Larry Sashin. And, in discussing charity and these people who give every single day, Fred brought up something that didn't even come to mind. I thought this was going to be a pretty clean and wonderful, easygoing panel, but there is a problem brewing. And Fred, why don't you discuss it?
Well, we're looking at with the government shutdown, we're looking at programs like SNAP that feed millions of underprivileged people around the country. We're looking at these programs being defunded and people being hungry unless there's an alternative.
Okay. Liz, what do you have to say about that?
I have a lot to say. First of all, we vote with our fork. The food choices we make, who we buy from, how we organize what we talk about. And I know we don't want to get into real politics, but we are talking about access. It's a tough moment because we have to stand up for our communities. There is a political exposure and a political risk, and there's just no no avoiding that for us in sanctuary cities or in places where my happiness is connected to what goes on in the city. I maybe serve people in a bubble, but I don't live in a bubble. I'm talking to you from our headquarters, which is the South Bronx, which is a very different slice of the New York City pie when you think about it. They're on a simple level for us as consumers. We can make donations to organizations that are involved on a community, West Side Campaign Against Hunger in New York, and so many more. So that's just the iceberg. I could go on a long time, but that's not the intent here.
Okay. Julie, you people are dealing directly with this. What's going on?
So what we're seeing, this isn't immediate. This is something that's been going on for the last year, but we are definitely seeing more people in line. We're seeing more people needing food. I work with the recipient partners directly. So I work with the soup kitchens and the food pantries. And what we're seeing from them are more need. Everyone is asking for more food. Every day, I probably get 2 to 3 new applications in a very small part of New Jersey. Just yesterday, I was at the Hudson County Coalition for Food Pantries meeting, and it was incredible. I sat on a panel with someone from Plentiful who is supplying an app that allows people to go on and find food. But then I also sat on with Community Food Bank, and they were talking about SNAP because they have SNAP educators built into their system, and they're facing huge cutbacks on their educators alone. And then they're talking about the cutbacks that's going to happen across the board when someone gets less SNAP dollars or no SNAP dollars in some cases. That puts less money into our economy. They're talking about the cuts that are going to come across will take $2 billion out of the economy. That's insane, because people who are now using SNAP, for their groceries and for purchases that didn't have money for before, now they're taking their money that they would use in other ways, using it towards groceries. I think this is going to be super challenging coming up. I'm nervous to see. So every day we're out just asking for more food and asking for more help. It is becoming more daunting, certainly.
So Dan,
Larry,
go ahead.
Let's try to connect the dot early on. Dan and Liz both have farms as well as operate retail, quote unquote, restaurant catering operations. Let's talk about how to all those things pull together to create a solution for this issue.
I'll just jump in and say very, very briefly, we have a relationship with the Dream School, which is a really amazing charter school right down the block from us. And every week when we get our farm delivery, a certain amount of cases of food goes to them. They've just established a pantry for their parents.
Okay, Dan, we just did a show just on the Mystic community and the food community. And you said even though you're all competitors, you all work together. What are you doing in Mystic to help this situation?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love so much about our industry, and listening to Liz and listening to Julie, it gives me such hope, is our industry, as you pointed out, we're the boots on the ground. We really are the keystone businesses, I believe, in our individual communities, whether that's a small community like the Mystic community where I'm at, or one of the largest, metropolitan areas like New York City where Liz is at. You see this selflessness, you see this resilience, you see this desire to give. And it's usually, it's these small business owners, running a restaurant or a catering company is hard work. My dad always reminds me that there's a lot easier ways to make a buck than going into the restaurant industry, but it's what I chose to do and it's what I love. And part of the reason I'm in this is that interaction with our community and the different groups and the people. So specifically to Fred's question, what can we do and what are we doing? There is ample opportunity in all of our restaurants to connect with folks coming in. And so we're constantly hosting fundraisers and benefits for different food organizations, groups that are feeding folks in town. In terms of the farm, and Liz knows this to be true, even the most efficiently run farm has a tremendous amount of what would normally be considered waste. But within that waste, there's an incredible opportunity, which we take advantage of, to donate, to sell at a discount, to give away food that might not normally make it anywhere but a compost pile. And so we have those connections. And specifically at Stone Acres, we have the Yellow Farmhouse Education Center, which is our 501c3 nonprofit that works with local school districts, works with local kids, but also works tirelessly to take food off of the farm and make sure that it's going to places where it can be used for good. And that's a way that, regardless of what's happening in Washington or Hartford in our case, that we can make real impact impact, the old fashioned way just by doing it ourselves.
How does John Q. restaurant owner help?
Julie has a special event, I think, this week, as a matter of fact.
Last week.
Coming up.
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
Right. So talk about honoring Christian and talk about how you put these programs together and how that benefits what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in the business of food rescue, and a lot of times we find that restaurants don't have that extra like grocery stores do. So chefs will come to us looking for other ways to help, and we have been so lucky in working with these incredible group of chefs. Last week we had our gala. We have it once a year. It is a major fundraiser for us. We had about 30 chefs between the hors d'oeuvre hour, the cocktail hour, and then we had 14 chefs in the main ballroom. Each chef had 2 tables that they were preparing food for. They prepared 3 courses each. We honored Christian Petroni, who was just an incredible honoree, the kindest man. I want to go to Arthur Avenue with him and experience what he does. But we had a live auction, and the chefs got up on stage and offered to cook in people's homes. And in fact, Christian Petroni got up and offered to take 6 guests to Arthur Avenue and then prepare the food that they picked up on Arthur Avenue for them. So these chefs are amazing in what they're able to give back. Just simply by preparing food that night, they offer gift certificates for our guests. We auction them off, and then those amazing packages that they offer as well. And we know that chefs, they don't have the time for all of these things, and yet they just give.
And the other thing, Larry, the other thing with this group is people like David Burke, Peter Kelly.
Yeah.
They're there. Tracy Neaporent.
Yeah.
They're there every single year. It's just incredible, the commitment.
Yeah, Jamie Knott and Ryan DiPerzio,
right.
They were there, and Jamie was another one up on stage, auctioning himself off to come and cook for 10 people in your home, and getting other chefs to join in with him. It was really an extraordinary evening, and we could not do any of this without the generosity of these chefs. Yeah. Truly, so lucky to have them around.
Fantastic. How do you?
It's so interesting because we live in this society that worships our chefs. There's celebrities, and even some of the farmers are celebrities. And the dichotomy around, you say food, and to our privilege, our customers, your supporters, we're all overfed and we have the best of the best. And then you say food, and there's 25% of New York City kids are food insecure. So it's like the two sides of the food coin is so radically different in the city. I want to come to your event next year, so please put me down.
Absolutely.
It's also, we have such a part of our role is to educate our privileged patrons around, where they can make contributions, what's going on. And even I find some of our, at the end of a night at an event, everybody just wants to get out. And our chefs, the cooks, whatever, just want to get rid of the food. It's really interesting. How do we make it possible? And how do we we never stop the clock. Everyone's on the clock and you want to get people out. But how do we rescue what we have? And Julie, it's really interesting to look at the world of food rescue. And I know we have Good Samaritan protection and all that, but there's a lot working against. I had a discussion the other day. Well, if it's sitting out for 2 hours, we're going to toss it in the garbage. I said, if it's sitting out for 2 hours, would you take it home and eat it? She goes, yeah. I said, so then why are you throwing it in the garbage? So that sort of education, I'm really curious to learn some best practices from you that we can integrate.
Yeah, we are on committee, a group with Community Food Banks, Share My Meals, a incredible group. People got together to figure out just that. We're about to present it to the governor's office here in New Jersey, and it has stipulations or rules around, and we had someone from the state health department sitting on the board as well. We've come up with all of this. So as soon as it's published, I will absolutely get it to you. It was very thoughtful, very considerate, because we are in the food rescue world, but we also have chefs that we work with. So we were really able to work at each point and really try to get it down to bare bones to figure out exactly what can we pick up from a buffet? How long can it be sitting there? If it's a monitored buffet, if it's not monitored, and maybe specific items that is coming down from in the state of New Jersey. And we're one of the first states to be doing something so thoughtful like that around food rescue. So we're really excited to be able to present that. That will be any day. It's going to be presented.
Dan, what happens in your part of the state where you have two large casinos with Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun? How does the food bank and the pickup of food work with your restaurants and then in the casinos as well? Any idea?
I don't know specifically in terms of the casino operations, what they're doing. I can really only speak to what's going on in Mystic. But for instance, in New London, we have the New London Community Meals Center, which, New London is our closest mid-level city to Mystic. And it's a wonderful city, but there's a tremendous amount of that population that is food insecure. That's an organization that has really become a leader in this area in terms of working with the local restaurants and the local farms in terms of picking up and getting things there. When I think back to the early days of COVID, one of the things that beautiful silver linings that came out of it, and it just took common sense and problem solving. The restaurants all shut down, right? So here we were, we had all these facilities, we had all this equipment, we have all this staff, and we couldn't feed the public. And meanwhile, we saw, lines out the door at every single food bank and community meal center. People needed food. You had farmers and food distribution companies that all of a sudden didn't have restaurants to sell to. So we had plenty of food, right? We had people that needed food, and we had licensed, inspected, professional organizations that could prepare food and feed food. And it just took some common sense connecting the dots of getting those three organizations together. And we were doing that in Connecticut. And it was, a matter of a few Zoom calls and phone calls with our federal congressional delegation, the governor's office, boards of health. And all of a sudden, we had restaurants activated, especially in the cities of New Haven, Bridgeport, Hartford, New London. You had restaurants opening up, not to the public, but to feed the people who needed to be fed. And it was a really wonderful example of how some common sense, connecting of the dots can make a huge difference.
So Liz, you said something earlier, vote with your fork.
Yeah.
And, the irony that strikes me is, on the one hand, and we had hundreds of thousands of immigrants come into New York City, staying in our hotels. We paid to feed every one of them 3 meals a day. And yet here we are having a discussion 2 years later about feeding people that live here that are hungry. I am baffled.
If you stand on any major thoroughfare in New York City, you have to really be careful stepping off the sidewalk because of the bikes and the deliveries. Yep. I am terrified that in a short period of time, there will be no one left on those bikes. On the good side, people will have to get off their asses, leave their house, and go get their food. Yep. But, that's like irrelevant because just the upending of everything in our restaurants and I think we're all squeaky clean and, we do what we need to do, but it's the dichotomy. It's bigger than all of us. It just goes to our heart and soul of who we are. And, we talk about our melting pot and our flavors and, the cultural richness of all our communities and where it comes from. So it's really a tough moment.
And the flashpoint right now is you have this incredibly controversial mayoral candidate who's being, again, no comment, he's being accused of everything. And so the question is, where does he sit in terms of, if you're going to vote again with your fork, where does he sit in terms of these programs?
And I don't know how much choice any mayor is going to have because so much of the funding is federal and it's a real squeeze game. So, we're talking about libraries and schools and old people, seniors. It's very scary. So just to make it more practical, it's going to come down to all of us as participants in the food system to figure out where do we, how do we participate? Where do we participate? We cannot take on the burden, but collectively we can share it. And we have to, because that's what we do. We feed people.
Okay. All right.
Larry gave us a lecture about absolutely no politics before you got on, Fred. So
it's impossible. It's my fault because it's impossible with this particular.
It's always Fred's fault. Yeah.
It's impossible.
It's always Fred's fault.
It's an impossible topic.
Okay. But we have another enemy right now. That's time. That is time. Before we, go around the room and give that last tidbit of information, once again, I have to thank Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Hey, we've talked about all the money flying out the window here. If your money is flying out the window and you don't know where it's going, call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. They will sift through your invoices and contracts to make sure you're getting exactly what you pay for. So So what we're going to do now is we're going to go around the room and please, use that 30 seconds to tell people, how they can get involved, how we can't help what's happening now, but we can change the outcome. So Dan, why don't you start?
Yeah, for me, it's about involvement and awareness. We've talked this show about how there's been this decrease of funding and money at the federal level, and that's a reality that we have to deal with. So I think now more than ever, it's imperative that folks who are in the food service world, like we all are, bring about awareness and talk to our guests and be advocates. And like Liz said, vote with our fork, being vocal in our community, continuing to work and do good and bring awareness to those folks that are coming in, because now more than ever, the private dollars and the private money is what's really going to help a lot of these programs and help these people. So as folks come through our restaurant doors, having those conversations and having those causes that we believe in and being vocal about them, I think is more important than ever.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
So years ago, there was a deacon that I worked with, and we started delivering food to him, to his program. And we were talking about how this food was bringing more people to his church and to his services. And I said, well, that's got to be a good thing. And his response was so beautiful. He said, Julie, we are not just feeding stomachs here, we are feeding the soul. I couldn't agree more. The restaurants, the chefs, extra that they do for the communities, their local communities, their communities that they grew up in many ways. It's just amazing to watch, and they are truly feeding the soul. Any ways to support Table to Table, welcome to visit our website, tabletotable.org. There's many ways to donate, to volunteer, download our app, I Rescue Table to Table. You can become a volunteer if you're in northern New Jersey.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Last but not least, Liz.
Julie, we're going to add you to our Giving Tuesday list, which we send out
you.
to all our customers. And that's what we just use our platform. We have such a wonderful platform, and our newsletter goes to 35,000 people, and God knows this is an amplification for all of us. So thank you, Larry, for entertaining this topic. We all have opportunities and creative ways to give. City Harvest is doing a can drive at a local store, like a super high-end candy store on the Upper East Side. So finding ways to connect communities, inspire people to give, that's our job.
And Fred, thank you.
Can't thank the panelists enough. Absolutely amazing. And clearly, we represented here New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And clearly, once again, in terms of, we are so lucky to have professionals like you that lead us and guide us and direct us. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Fred, because you're a great platform also.
Sure,
So
thank you.
We can't do this without you.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it's down to me now. Listen, I am a huge, huge proponent of giving my time, my effort, and what cash I have to do this. But if you own a restaurant, you got to have, a gallon of soup left over, something that can be passed along. If you're a supermarket, ugly fruit, ugly vegetable, they're still delicious. They don't, the face might change, but the taste and nutrition value doesn't. So please, that box that you take and throw away, into that box all the different fruits and vegetables that you can't sell. Call Julie, call your local people. It's valuable. It's gold in that box of ugly. So think a little bit, just think a little bit and give. We'll be back next week. It might not be as uplifting as this one is, but we'll be here with information that you need. So everybody, I only have 2 things left to say. Everybody, stay positive, test negative, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.